You are live.
Right, welcome to the Staffing Committee of Bingley Town Council. Present today we've got
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Truelove.
Eve Haskins, Town Clerk.
and
Councillor Good.
Councillor Good, who is observing, who isn't on the committee but is observing today. Okay, apologies for absence.
Received from Councillor Clough.
Councillor Clough. Disclosures of interest, I would have hoped they would have been notified in advance if there are any. None. Minutes of the previous meeting held on the 4th of November. They've been circulated. Has anybody got any comments or observations?
There's a
on
matter
these?
arising from it. I would say they are true reflection, but the matter arising from them, Jeff, is that Eve was going to go and talk to Tracy about the missing minutes.
Okay, well let's say, can we agree the minutes, and then we can.
I would propose them as.
Okay, and I will second them. Oh, we agreed. Yes.
All in
So
favour,
those are
yes.
agreed, and I will sign this copy. Right. So the matter arising, there was a set of minutes which was clerked by the previous interim clerk, which have gone missing and never arose. There's no further news on that.
No, I contacted Tracy again after the meeting, and she said she recalled Clark in the meeting, because I think it was a virtual meeting, wasn't it?
It was indeed.
But then she hasn't got back to me with them.
No.
So
we think that's a lost cause.
Well, to be honest, I never expected she would, but
Oh, don't worry.
Shall we just let it go? And
so I think we just note that they're missing, and that's all we can do.
Okay.
I don't think there are any decisions made that
No,
have an
no.
impact anyway.
Okay, now we have to decide what confidential items need to be discussed later on in the agenda, and remember that the nature of the staffing committee is that we can't be having public conversations about any particular members of staff, and so, for example, if we're discussing the recruitment item, we can't be making reference to individuals, how much they get paid, what they exactly do. So I would suggest that item 2122 is held with the public and press excluded. I think the other items, unless anyone has any other ideas, are reasonable to have in public.
No, I think we ought to discuss 20, the recruitment of staff member per se, in public, to the one before.
Well, that's 20. Well, Jeff's saying 22.
Yeah, he's saying
22.
He's saying 21, 22.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unless I'm hearing you. I mean, I'm looking at the agenda that I got from the PDF. It's 21, 22 stroke 20.
Yes.
Recruitment of staff member.
Yes.
And that's in public. Yes.
No.
No.
I mean, we could theoretically talk about recruitment in public, but we can't then start saying what the person would be doing by reference to what other members of staff are doing, and whatever current members of staff are getting paid or not paid as the consequence.
I get that, but just my thoughts on it was that the recruitment of another staff member is in the public interest, and therefore, per se, we should talk about the generics of recruiting another staff member.
We can talk about it if we make no reference to existing members of staff. I think that's
Well, it's going to be a difficult thing to do, isn't it?
well, that's
a challenge that we've got to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, all I would say in general terms is, for good or for bad, the council has decided by virtue of the budget process that they were committed and have allocated funds for a part-time member of staff. So obviously we've got to that point, but I think we do need a discussion about what exactly the role would be, what level of pay, and indeed issues relating to the recruitment process. Now, as I mean, you're both right in the sense that clearly it is a matter of interest to the public that we're recruiting somebody, or are about to recruit somebody, but equally we can't be sort of referencing individual work pressures or payments or
No.
what people are doing. Real life individuals are doing, and I suppose that's the conundrum. Now, if the suggestion is that we could have a discussion on recruitment of a staff member without any of that reference to other people, that, you know, I'm more than happy for that to be not confidential.
Do you
But
think we can?
I'm doubtful.
No, I would suggest it's doubtful as well.
Okay. Well, I think we've said our piece
Yeah.
in public forum now, and the public know we're talking about a new member staff. The agenda's out there.
Yeah,
So,
I think we should be as transparent as possible, as you know. But I think that the nature of this discussion means that we can't have a proper discussion on exactly what we're looking for by reference to what we've already got. And I think so. I will propose that particular item is the press and public are excluded. Are we in agreement with that?
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. Okay. So that's done. Okay. So that'll be moved towards the end. Public participation.
Yes, that's
Councillor
why,
Good.
That's why I'm here. I'm extremely emotional, angry, embarrassed, not personally, from our chair's comments, telephone calls, etc. to Dan Brown, and also the flimsy response we got at the full council meeting. I'm also concerned, that's why I came to this meeting, on the staffing front, because one of the most important relationships in a town council is between the chair and the town clerk. In the past, there's always been an amicable, friendly relationship. From what's gone before and our chair's corporate style, i.e. Treating members of staff as staff members rather than as important to the council, I feel that this committee should bear that in mind going forward and monitor it, and I hope that the staff, if they do have any issues from that style, that's the reason I didn't support Steve initially, is that I'm concerned about the staffing issues going forward.
Okay.
We've seen from when we lost Ruth what mayhem is caused. We now have more staff, and I'm encouraged to hear what you say about the member of staff. That's another reason I came today. I was concerned how that was going to pan out, but obviously, well, not obviously, but it looks as though it's already agreed that we're going to you're going to look into that, so that's excellent. So that's basically why I'm here. I've thought long and hard about it. I've been away for a couple of days. It's never been out of my mind. It is so important to me, Steve. It is so important to me.
But you're not talking to me,
Okay,
Councillor Good, you're talking to the chair.
John,
Beg your pardon.
John,
I apologise for that.
all I can say is we've heard what you say.
Yeah,
I will say
Yes.
that clearly we understand the importance of our staffing resource. And we understand, and we appreciate the staff we have, and obviously we want to support them the best way we can do.
Right.
I don't think we can discuss the other issues because they're outside the scope of this
No, but
meeting. You've made your point.
I just wanted to make the point in public. That's all, because
Okay.
it's something that's really, really, really,
Okay.
it's really important to me,
Right.
and to the future of the council.
Okay. I think you've made your point.
Yes, that's fine.
Can I
mate.
Yeah.
respond on the staffing issue, please?
On the
Chair?
staffing issue.
Yeah, I'm not
as
going
long
to
as it's-
respond to the Diane Brown issue.
No,
That's
you're not,
done and dusted.
I wouldn't ask you to, sir.
We can take that outside, John.
I wouldn't
On the
expect-
staffing issue, I would ask the clerk here if at the present time or in the past there's been any issues between us, and we're good, I think. So the clerk is here, we'll ask her an open question.
I mean, I don't think it's fair to be asking members
No.
of staff
Well, the other
questions,
thing
but
is-
it's a rhetorical
It's a
question.
rhetorical question. And the other thing is, Jeff, as chair of this meeting, is the line manager of the staff, and I would encourage the staff to report to the line manager any issues. And I typically have been one of the best employers in my corporate career, style notwithstanding, it was appropriate to corporate life.
Exactly.
But I got top marks every time it came up. So thank you very much for your concern.
That is the difference
Yeah,
between corporate and between town council. That is
Okay, well, I think the point's been made.
Yeah.
I agree.
Can we
I
move on?
don't
Yeah.
know because you've put that other issue to the end of the thing. I will leave the meeting, and thank you
Okay.
very much for listening
Okay.
to me.
Okay,
And I hope
thank you,
I
John.
hope
No
that
problem.
going forward, the rest of the councillors respect my views.
Okay,
We
John.
do.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Take care.
See you
Ta-ra.
later.
Right, so we'll go to 21, 22, 21 Silka training to consider and agree arrangements for the Deputy Clerk and Admin Officer to undertake the Silka qualification, including number of hours of study to be paid. Now, I think we all accept that having fully trained and developed staff has to be a win-win for the council. I understand that the staff in question have already done the earlier qualification, the ILCA qualification. So perhaps could I ask the clerk what exactly the position is on Silka and what we need to agree today.
Well, they both want to undertake it. They've both finished the ILCA this year. The next sort of tranche of people going into the Silka training is in July.
Right.
So I think they're both willing to do it then. As you know, Ruth now works for another parish council as well. So I'm not sure what the arrangements would be for her to be paid to do it by this council or by the other council. I think in her contract it says that this council will consider paying for it.
I mean, again, without getting into the detail, her details. I mean, I will just pose the question. We may not know the answer today. Is that clearly, if somebody's working for another council, there is an argument to say that the costs could be split and divvied up.
What's the reason?
Have we previously agreed that?
What's the reason by paying for somebody else?
Well, no, the person is the admin officer who already works for us.
Oh, for Ruth.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and because she's now got another job with another parish council.
Right.
And
I'm under
she's
the impression
Well,
we
why did
discussed
she take
this.
more hours here then?
That was for the SLCC membership.
yes,
That was the membership of SLCC.
okay.
So
yeah,
that
you
was
did. It's
split.
similar
Same,
issues. To be
well,
fair.
the same principle applies.
Yeah.
You should approach the other
Seems rather
parish to say,
strange. Seems
"Give me
rather
divvy."
strange. She's got another job with another council.
Yeah,
Yes,
the clerk.
because she's only part time.
No, I realise that, but we're looking for a potential part-time one here. Why couldn't she have her hours increased and make it 3 full-timers?
You've got another job.
Because she's
Well,
chosen.
she got another job.
She chose to go, and she's also the clerk of a small parish.
She's the clerk there rather than an admin assistant.
Oh, right,
there.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's a
You're
step
asking
up,
her
if you like.
effectively to resign another role.
Yeah, it's a step up.
No, I'm just asking
But
the
it's
question.
going
I
to.
don't
It's
know
a
what
reasonable. It's a reasonable
you
question.
know, I mean, it seems a bit strange.
And of course,
really,
she jumped before we were in this position. So my proposal would be yes, we should agree in principle to fund these people, but I think that at least an inquiry could be made at the other council as to whether they're going to make a contribution,
but
because to some extent
insist on it because we're qualifying her to be working at another council. That's not really the way forward in life, I don't think.
no. But obviously, we want her to have the qualification for her work here. So it's
Do we?
well, I think
That's right. Is it necessary?
I think it'd be useful.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's the long-term objective? I mean, she could back in and go with the other council, might give her more time or whatever.
But it's
it
a very
expand.
small one as far as I know, and to some extent it's also, I would suggest good to as a retention thing to keep her doing what she's doing now. I mean,
Well,
it's
will
a
it?
swings and
Will it?
Well, I
Well,
think it was discussed previously that if the council paid for the employees to do the Silka, then they would have to, if they're left within 12 months,
they have to pay it back.
because it's a
Right,
few
is that
hundred
right? Is that in
pounds.
writing somewhere to them?
Is that in the contracts?
in their contracts.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
in the
All right.
contracts.
No, it just seems a bit odd, really, because I mean, you hear of stories where people spent a lot of money training somebody, and then as soon as they got trained and got the certificate, they wander off elsewhere.
oh, yeah.
And that,
In corporate
and
life, as John Good said, most people who got an MBA cleared off within a year.
yeah, they disappear. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens,
But
isn't it?
at least they'll be
Well, I think
theoretically
we should
retained
agree-
for a year
subject-
anyway.
I think it should be subject to agreement of the other council paying 50%. Because she's going to get the better benefit of it from the role she's doing there rather than here, I would think. Not knowing the scope of the training, but
That's a good thought.
I would think it will
subject to-
give a better training. So I would
Well,
suggest it should
well,
be
to be honest,
subject
that was my initial thought with the other
The other
matter,
one, yes,
albeit it was, I was, others had different views.
But they came to us subject to our agreement, didn't they?
Yes.
It was the other way round, so we could flip the coin and go back subject to their agreement. I
Yes.
don't know how we transact that deal.
No,
It's
and
still
I don't know the hour balance. I don't know where the
we split it 50-50, whatever the costs are.
No, I think what Jeff's now saying is, of all the hours for Silk are coming out of our hours or theirs. And you're saying 50-50.
But I mean, we can only do
Sounds
things under our
assuming.
control, and I think in principle I want to. I think it's good that our staff are do get this, so they know what, and it means that when other colleagues may or may not leave over the coming years, at least you got a bit of a pipeline potentially of people who can step into these.
I don't
these
disagree with
roles.
you about the training, Jeff. I'm just a bit uneasy about somebody having another role in another council and we're paying for the benefits of it. I don't think that seems to be fair and equitable.
No, well, no. I mean, but the funny thing is, if the person in question didn't have another job, we would probably consider paying for just for a half hours or whatever it is here. So, it's.
That's all I would say.
Yeah.
It doesn't settle easy with me paying for somebody who's working elsewhere.
Can we say that subject to to exploring whether or not the other
The council or whatever
other
they-
council are prepared to
contribute.
And
Yes.
yeah,
I
I
think
think
we
it's only
should.
fair. It's not.
It does say in, both the people that want to do the Silka in their contracts that this council would consider paying for the Silka.
yeah.
Which
But it
we
doesn't make
are.
any reference to working elsewhere, does it? It's just open assuming that you're a full-time employee or an employee of the council. We know all the interests elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I suppose if
that's opening. That's opening.
I suppose our thing is to worry about the Bingley bit.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
and
agree,
if
Jeff,
we and if
If
there's a
people
case,
find out we're paying for stuff to go to other places, I'm sure we'll get a lot of rhetoric flying from other members, from people. If we're open and fair and equitable about what's going on, and we're saying that we're going to train somebody who's working for another council, I don't think that'll go down very well with members of the
yeah,
public.
but in the parish and town council sector, it's common for people to be working for a number of smaller employers to make up their hours, and this sort of issue must come up from
But
time
then
to time.
the reverse of that, Jeff, of course, is that we're looking for another member of staff because we've got more hours
Yeah.
to offer. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
as though we haven't got it. So in other words, we're trapping ourselves because we're actually saying we're going to set somebody else on, and we'll have to pay for them to do it. So
We could have done with another
we could have a
full-time.
full-time person. That's really when it comes back to it. I mean, are we?
But that's not necessarily an option when you've already got a half-time person who doesn't necessarily want to come full-time.
But yeah, it's gone for a role somewhere else. It just doesn't stack up. It's something
I'm not
not
going to
easy with
mention
that.
corporate life and redundancy, otherwise it would probably not sit well with this council.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just thinking it's a little. Just seems a bit.
Okay, so
unusual,
so
let's put it
can
that
we
way.
can we say we agree in principle, but subject with to exploring the possibility of a contribution to the costs from one member of staff's other employer. Now, what's the position on hours? How many hours are normally required to do this?
Ruth looked into this, didn't she, Nicola?
Yeah.
I think
So did I.
it depends how much time you can put in,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah, you can do it within 12 months, or you can condense it down into 6 months with hours. I can't remember off the top of my head how many hours that was a week, but I think they were suggesting between 2 and 4 hours a week.
Because personally, I'm fairly relaxed if there is some flexibility on how this, because if we work on the assumption that having our staff being having this higher level of training and qualification will help them do their job better, I'm more than flexible to allow the clerk to manage the situation the best she can, bearing in mind obviously we need people to do the day job, but at the same time we've got to facilitate where possible, allowing people to do the development work which we think is in the interests of the council. So I'm not sure it's necessary for us to put an X number of hours. I think that some weeks they might do a bit more, some weeks they might do a bit less, depending on the ebb and flow of general work. I'm not sure that we can just pluck a figure out of the air, can we?
They're study hours that are paid for by us.
Yes.
So she can be sat here for 4 hours studying.
Yes.
And that's her day, that's her day's work done.
But she could be sat here studying, and when the phone rings, go and answer it, and if something happens, deal with it. That's the way it could work.
I agree with training, but it just seems a little bit messy to me. But I've come along a bit late in the day, but I've no objections to people being trained. I think it's important. But it's just a matter of how do we manage this situation. It just seems a little bit odd.
Well,
part-time. If it were a full-time role, it wouldn't be an issue at all, would it?
No, but I suppose the issue we have is that we want people to do these things. We want to enable them to do what they need to do, but we want to keep the show on the road as possible. And it's easier, I would have thought, having a degree of flexibility of when people are allowed to do the odd hour on their their development work, balanced with whatever else they have to do, rather than set in stone saying, you can have X hours and it's always going to be on such and such a time, because that then limits the flexibility of the other staff who may on occasions
take random.
Well, it's not a problem when you have a full-time role, is it? Because you can actually you're flexible. But when you're only on a small number of hours, it can be a bit restricted.
It is made difficult by the part.
And by the way it's working out, all I would say is that we're just leaving ourselves open to being criticised by the members of the public, because it's their money that's paying for it.
Yeah, but it's supposed to, it's their money, but it's supposed to be for the benefit of the public, isn't it? I think that,
I've no problem with the training.
Fully developed staff is supposed to be good for Bingley, not it's not a negative.
No, but training's important, but it's just the mix of what's happening here.
I think what Mark is saying is that it's a bit bitty.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's neither, it's neither one thing nor the other. But what was upsetting was if we paid for it all, and then she disappears and goes and works for another council.
Yeah, albeit if she disappears within a year, she'd have to pay it back.
How do you quantify that, though?
Well, the money you can,
It's just
not the hours.
But you can't do with the hours, can
No,
you?
you can't do the hours. No.
I think when a former employee of the council took the Silka, I think she spent 4 hours per week on it, 2 of which were paid by the council. I think that's how it was decided at the time. Can you remember?
No.
Only vaguely.
Yeah. Which is more of a compromise.
Yeah.
Do you think that's if you think that's a viable way forward? So 2 hours per week.
Oh,
I think she took 4 hours per week on it,
yeah.
2 of which would be paid for.
And 2 hours in her own time.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
fine.
in this case, we could say 2 hours to be paid for, or go speak to the other council. For the 2 hours that she's agreeing to
We'll
pay
just say that
for.
we're prepared to do this, subject to getting a contribution from the other council, and we'll allow you 2 hours for training, for your study. And then at least it's pretty clear cut, isn't it? You don't want to come in and sit in here for half a day and then suddenly going home having spent all the time studying.
Well, it's impossible because you've got.
No, I know
get on
that, but I
with
mean,
the job
hypothetically
as
speaking,
well.
she could do, couldn't she? Could sit there and you lose a day. So I think there's a strike a compromise through it all.
Do you think that sounds fair, Nicola, as a member of staff that's looking at doing the Silka? If you spent, say, for example, 4 hours a week on it, if 2 hours were the council time and 2 hours your time. I'd feel it was very fair for me as a full-time employee.
Right.
I can't comment on part-time employee.
It's a
Well,
compromise.
Mark's
that's
made a
pressing.
proposal. Shall we?
I would second it.
Shall we go with that?
Yeah.
obviously the matter can be kept under review if it's totally unworkable, but
Well, yeah.
Are we unanimous, Jeff?
we are.
Yeah,
We are.
okay.
There we are. Okay.
Okay, have you got enough on that, Eve?
Yeah, and that was agreeing to pay for it, the cost of it as well.
Subject to the agreement of the other council. Yeah.
Subject to exploring the council. And we'll see what happens. Okay, annual leave policy review. A, to review the annual leave policy, including number of days annual leave permitted annually. I think we're looking at this not least because I think Eve identified a few problems that our policy hadn't kept up to date with what the national provisions are. First of all, the national provisions said that the amount of annual leave new members of staff had was currently, which our thing said for 21 days, actually went up to 22 days.
Yeah, so the contracts are different to this.
Yeah, so our contracts are out of sync with them, and after 5 years it goes up to 25. That's unchanged. 5 years service goes up 25. That's unchanged. The other variable which I think we probably could tidy up is the issue of and we discussed it before for those who on the committee, the extra statutory days.
2 days.
The 2 days are given to, because at one time staff in the public service used to have
Queen's birthday or something else, wasn't it?
2 extra days off specific set days. Queen's birthday is one of them.
Well, they usually tag them to the bank holiday.
Yes, yeah. What we decided last year was that effectively these 2 days should be more or less just added to people's leave and taken with all the provisions which you would normally decide whether you allow annual leave. It was a lot tidier and neater, which would mean effectively people would have what we're saying, what 20, it's gone up to 22, so I have 24 days and 27 days respectively, and then that time would just be treated like normal annual leave, and it would be because it doesn't seem any point saying that employers are entitled to 2 extra statutory days, taking the time convenient to
21 working days plus 2 days, 23. Isn't
No,
it?
because it's gone up to 22.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's the national agreement went up to 22.
All right, I've got to say, is this in line with council's
Yes.
general rate?
So it's already out of sync.
So this is out of date anyway.
Yes.
There is another issue there, Chair, in as much as the first line of that policy says unless the contracts say otherwise.
Yes.
So if you put that to 22 by agreement, that still means that the clerks do it 21 days in.
Well, no, the
contract.
position is that some contracts say 22 and some say 21. As it happens,
say 22.
As it happens, the clerk's position is slightly different because being a longer serving employee in the sector, she's already on the 25 days where it doesn't kick in.
Okay.
All right, so it's not your length of time you're working for the particular council.
No, it's the length of continuous service in the sector.
In the sector,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. Personal rights reserved.
Slightly different to what we're used to.
So have we got anyone where a conflict and we need to change the contract if we move that then?
The leave in the both contract. Mine's 25. Obviously, yours is 22, isn't it, Nicola?
Yeah.
And I think Ruth's contract says 24, but that's because it doesn't say anything about the statutory.
Oh yeah, because that included the statutory decks. I did it. I think I did it at the
22
time.
then.
Yeah.
So this wants to be amended then.
Yes.
Yeah. So and it doesn't impact on the contract. So.
No. No.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fair enough
Yeah.
then.
I think
It's
it's
in line with the
I
council
just think
requirements.
just so we know that the this is wrong and says it's 21 days for new starters, and we think that the 2 statutory days should just be added to those amounts,
Yeah.
and then it's neater all round.
Yeah, no.
So-
The cleaner it is, the better. Actually.
Yeah.
No.
and more straightforward. Now the other issue is clarity on the annual leave permitted to be carried over into next year. The
5 days.
it says no more than 5 days, and obviously pro rata for part-time staff. Are we still happy with that provision?
Well,
Obviously, we'd have to change people's contracts if we weren't, but
I've seen provisions where you can carry them over and there's a requirement to use them within a certain time frame to make sure that
use them or lose them.
No, not so much use them, but use them first and quick to make sure that if they are carrying over, there's a recognition that they haven't had a holiday in the previous year or much of a holiday, so get a holiday in now for staff welfare. But that's not universally applied. So I've seen both, where they just dumped in, and it's more, or dumped in and used first, quick.
and remember that if they, I mean, the position is that if people don't use up their leave and have more than 5 days, well, those days are lost. And
so say you use them or lose them.
That's a given. Yeah.
So if we leave this as it is, then B says to note the number of days annual leave each member of staff will carry over into the next financial year, and to approve the carryover of 5 days annual leave. I'm not sure we technically have to approve, because I think the policy just says that you have 5 days. But is there anything, Eve, I
think it says in the contracts that it needs to be approved by the council.
Okay.
So
is it not by the chair of the staffing committee? No, by the council.
By the council.
Well, that's frankly ridiculous. I mean, it's one thing being agreed by way of almost like noting something, but one wouldn't have thought that the full council.
Such agreement should not be unreasonably withheld, which is sort of standard.
I have to have a look at the contracts. It may be the staffing committee.
Well, I think it should be the staffing committee.
You don't want to put it in full council.
We've got enough rubbish at full council meetings, haven't we, without doing this?
That's another long debate.
And I think that we should, unless we're told otherwise, assume that it's the staffing committee which, on behalf of the council, fulfils this duty, and have staff got more than not more than 5 days. They got up to week.
Both Nicola's got 5 to carry over. Ruth has got the equivalent of 5 to carry over. She's part time. I've used all mine, or I will have done by the end of March, so I haven't got any to carry over.
So if the policy said the staffing committee, and the council agree that it says the staffing committee by change, you wouldn't have to change your contract, because your contract says agreed by the council, and plainly it's agreed by the council.
Yeah.
So I don't see a need for the change.
It'd be full council, wouldn't it, if it had to go before?
It doesn't say full council.
I don't think so. I'll have to check.
If it says full council, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
But if it just says the
We
council.
need to amend it, don't we?
I think it may have said staffing committee, because that's why it came to this.
Right.
Possibly.
If it says staffing committee.
But anyway, if you just check
it.
and we will, I suppose we're reaffirming the positions unchanged.
Yeah.
And with that, have you got enough, all you need to at least tidy up the leave policy?
Yeah.
And we're all in agreement with that. Good. Thank you very much. Right. I propose to exclude members of the press and the public, to resolve that members of the press and the public be excluded from items under the provisions of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960 during consideration of items of a confidential nature.
I will second that, because we've already decided
And
that.
we agree, all in favour of that?
And if you give us a second, then I will say goodbye to YouTube. Good day, YouTube. We